thinking about this month, I was trying to imagine what, was something that was really significant that was, wait, what did I do? And I realized nothing was story-worthy. I was more like, my experiences were more like, I said what, or I wore what, or I ate what. God knows I've had my share of trials and tribulations. There's some head-slapping, eye-rolling, gasp-worthy stories, the usual assortment of embarrassing and random and pathetic, Lucille Ball-like slapstick moments that comprise my life. Like a time in high school, when my friend Sandy and I worked at the Yorktown Cinema, we were concession clerks. And we were on the softball team. They didn't actually let us play, but we went anyway. And so one day we're sort of throwing the ball back and forth, and it goes over the fence. And I run, it's got to be like a block, down to the end, around the end, get the ball, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to run all the way back there. And it's an unusually high, chain link fence with the sort of crisscross things at the top. So I start going up. And I get about waist high over the top of the fence. And suddenly I lose my footing. And I don't fall in a heap on the ground, which would have been much more merciful. I slide, and somehow my bra decides to save me. Hooks on the top wires of the fence, so that my bra and my shirt, I'm hanging from them, and my arms are like little T-Rex arms. They're no good, they do nothing, and I'm just in shock, and everybody else is facing me. So I'm trying to free myself, and it's not working, and I'm actually in pain too, and it's humiliating and all the things you can imagine. And Sandy, bless her soul, is trying really hard to cover me from her side of the fence, but she's kind of short, and that's a drawback. But worse than that, she's laughing so hard that she keeps doubling over and provides no coverage whatsoever. So eventually I was able to get down, and then of course, we were like 16 or something, so there were all sorts of notes all over Yorktown Cinema, by the time clock, and in the break room, and the popcorn room where they pop the popcorn about free shows and flashers and all of that, and that was me. And Sandy and I lost touch over the years, but we'd see each other, every few years maybe. I hadn't seen her in a long time, and I was visiting her at her home with her husband and her 3 children, where I learned that all 3 children know that story by heart, and each like to tell it in their own way. So I'm really glad that that lives on for a new generation. And other things that came to mind were more like one-liners. I once walked an elephant down the streets of Beverly Hills. I drank several margaritas and put $200 in the cup that Wheelchair Jay had in his station outside the Walgreens. I stood up to the evil university president, and I told her, and I quote, "I am a rock star. I'm used to be treating like a rock star and performing like a rock star, and this is no good." And I saw both Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert in their underwear at the same time. So I had this I did what thing floating around in my mind, but I felt like while these stories were noteworthy, they didn't really have any impact. There was no sort of gravitas to them. And then it occurred to me that probably one of the most unanticipated and bravest things I have ever done was reading a poem for the first time in the open mic at the Green Mill. I had gone there with my friends Jenny and Tony. I was from Lombard, western suburbs. Still, I keep my things intact. And I walk into the Green Mill in Uptown, and I think that I've just landed on Mars. I cannot, this is maybe 1988 or something, and I cannot even believe that this place exists and that people are reading poems. And there are all sorts of characters, and they're wonderful, and I immediately fall in love, and I just never want to leave. So I went and hung out every Sunday religiously for I don't know how long, months probably. And finally one day I wrote a poem. And bigger than that, I signed up for the open mic and got up to read it. And here I was, someone who was really shy. I had gone to community college and didn't get my associate's degree because I wouldn't take the required speech class. I was just mortified. I could not do it. So all of a sudden, fast forward a few years, and here I am at the Green Mill in front of a bar full of maybe, I don't know, 100 or more people in various stages of intoxication, and reading my heartfelt poem to them. And it was amazing and wonderful. And the great thing about it was that not only I had done this very brave thing, but it brought me into this next chapter of my life that turned out to be the greatest thing ever. It really transformed my life and got me writing, and I met all sorts of great people and had great experiences. People that are nearest and dearest to me today are people I met through the Green Mill. So it was a really, really important and wonderful experience that I wouldn't trade for the world. And I think that's probably, when I would tell people that way back when, I'd say, oh, I read a poem at a bar. And they'd think, what the hell? It was before there were slams all over and slams on TV and all that stuff. And Mark Smith, who originated the slam, is a great friend of mine. And he does this routine every week where he introduces himself and he says, of course, my name is Mark Smith. And now, or probably for 20 plus years, everybody says, so what? Right? You guys have been to the slam probably. I think I made that up. I was a really good heckler. And I don't really have proof of that, although I believe it in my heart. And I often would have to run to what they called slime corner. I'm not sure why, but I think it was fitting. It was sort of in the front, right by on the Broadway side, right where you come in. And I would run over there and I would do a shot of tequila, so that I would just sort of calm my nerves and I could be in the slam and compete and not faint or do something really horrible. So my judgment was sometimes a little cloudy, and my memory not always great, but I feel pretty confident that that was me. So next time you go to the slam. But what I do know is that I helped establish a new genre of poetry, which Mark dubbed testicles on the windshield like bug juice. And I've got that. So I'd like to share one of those vintage poems with you, and if we have time, maybe I'll do it. This is called Hanky Panky. Bukowski tells me that love is a dog from hell, and I cannot help investing my belief love is a dog from hell. It comes at you tongue and tail wagging, cold nose, warm heart, dumb and unconditional. Love is a dog from hell. It turns on you, snarling, growling, biting deeply, making wounds, leaving scars. And on this soggy Sunday afternoon, I look for comfort toward the only loves on which I can depend. Three men in my life. Bukowski, Ben and Jerry. Bukowski has his whores, his beers, his craps. Me, I've got assholes, cramps, and ice cream. And I just wonder why I bothered to listen to his gripes and pains and groans when I could wallow in my own. And I just wonder why anyone would give a good goddamn to listen to the old man bitch. Maybe it's because if you listen to enough of that, eventually it'll toss you a jewel like love is a dog from hell. And after I mull it over, after I analyze, internalize, and compromise, after I finish off my sweet and creamy pint, I'll say something like, I think, dear Hank, that love is more sly, more cunning, trickier than all that, perhaps more cat-like. Love is a cat out of hell. I know it's bat, not cat, but I want cat, 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 cat in the hat. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like men. Sam, I am. I do not want them in my head. I do not want them in my bed. I do not want them in my home, and I do not want them in my poem. Oh no, love and cats in hell and cats, and no love, only dogs. Thanks. So after a very, very I started writing poems again, in part because of Louder Than a Mom, which I thought was a poetry thing, so I just come and do poems anyway, and everybody, what's up with it? So this is a new one, and it's called We Are Broken. You are, without a doubt, my favorite train wreck. The horn is blaring, the brakes are screeching, smoking, I brace for impact. You are my favorite train wreck. Unyielding and destructive and easily derailed. Glass shatters, metal twists. You are bruised, but I am bleeding. We are broken, an unnatural disaster. You are my favorite train wreck. You are the wreck, and I am the wreckage. We are an inconvenience to the others. What else are they to do but crane their necks and scratch their heads? You are my favorite train wreck. There were no witnesses. There will be no investigation. Thanks.